Okay, boys, Daily Outlook, Thursday, 12th of February 2026. So, we're going to keep it short and sweet, given that price action is really not very nice at the moment, in my opinion. And I'm not very interested in trading it, but I'm still going to make the video so you guys can see what I'm seeing. So, basically, I'm looking at the DXY on the H4. Currently, we're in trapped order flow, right? We're trapped between this inverse H4 fair value gap and this bearish H4 fair value gap and this inverse level, right? If we were bearish, like I keep saying, I wanted to see this level get manipulated and displaced lower, but clearly something is holding us up from doing that. Another thing to note is that we also got this daily bullish PD array. Don't know why it's not loading, but this green box right here is that daily bullish fair value gap. This black line right here, this is our daily order block, and this blue box is our daily bearish fair value gap. Let's see if I can get this to load for a second. Okay, cool. That should work now. So if I look at it on the daily, you can see that we obviously have this daily bearish fair value gap and this daily bullish fair value gap and that daily order block. And that, to me right now, is explaining why we are not displacing lower with conviction. Another thing to note is that we did just run out the 3-month previous low. So obviously we can come down and double sweep that and then come back up into the range or continue lower. But my point is that because we've swept that, we could see a deeper retracement here. And we've obviously got bullish PD arrays that price is responding to on the daily. We've got this daily bearish fair value gap as well, but I haven't marked that one out right there. It's just going to make it too complicated. So you can tell that we're in trapped order flow right here, in my opinion. If we are to be confirmed bearish, I really would want to see displacement below here, some sort of weak high, run that weak high, and then continue towards our drawn liquidity, and then potentially run that into this inverse daily gap, or potentially down here into this inverse H4 gap. But what I would want to see is that is when I'll get involved again. That is when I'll be confident that we're running towards this low. So yeah, that's currently DXY. My opinion, trapped order flow. Would want to see that displacement from this level below here and something like that, right? That would be ideal. So looking at Euro USD, it's very similar. Really just, you look at this right here and you can just tell that this is bombastic price action that you don't want to be trading. Monday, straight up just expanded. And then since then, all week we've been consolidating. Probably because we've had a bunch of red folder news this week. We had NFP on a random day this week, which was, that was Wednesday. And then tomorrow we have CPI. So I'm just not interested in trading this. Once again, we're in trapped order flow here on the H4. Now, if you want to understand the higher time frame, go back to yesterday's video. But briefly outlining it here, you can see that we've got this inverse H4 gap that we closed above. Then we drop back below and we're seeing it act as resistance here. Not only that, but we have this H4, what should have been a bullish gap, close below. We're seeing it act as resistance. And then on the H1, you can also see, and what I'll do is I'll literally just get rid of everything else right here. We've got this H1 fair value gap that is holding us down, right? So that's what's holding us down. We also have this daily key levels right here holding us up, right? So we've got this inverse daily gap, which could be also a balanced price range overlapping with this daily bearish fair value gap. that you can see with this one candle right here, we were seeing that act as a resistance. Then we closed above it, and then we wicked into that here on the daily. You can see that acting as support. So right now, we're in trapped order flow, and I don't want to trade it, and I don't like it, and people are getting chopped around like a madman. I really took one loss up in here in the week, which, to be honest with you, I should have moved my stop loss to break even during NFP, but I didn't because I didn't want to fuck with the trade, because I still thought it was a high probability, right? Because we were above this gap and we had run into this H4 bullish fair value gap. So I was anticipating that we would basically come into this gap and continue higher. So it is what it is. Could have took some risk off the table, but I'm not bothered. So basically, in terms of Euro USD trapped order flow, I want to stay the fuck away from it until we have a directional move, right? Whether we... Oh no, the missus is calling again. Let me end it and text her. I'm gonna text the boys. You know what they get like. If I don't text her immediately, she's gonna spam me. Alright, okay. Back to the video. So yeah, I want to wait for a directional move, right? Whether it's something like that, right? Running out some sort of H1 week low or H4 week low, and we displace higher and DXY goes lower, or we just tank like that. I don't know at this point. I'm not confident, and I will wait for more price action and obvious displacement before getting on side again. GU, see with GU, if we look at it on here on the daily, you can see that we have these daily inverse key levels, bearish fair value gap, balanced price range. We've had SMT at this daily week high with Euro USD. So I know there's no week high over here, but that is the previous week high. And if I drop this tool on right here, you can see this blue line is the previous week high. So note that we haven't taken that out. On Euro USD, we are well above the previous week high. We also ran out the Monday range high, and now we're back inside the week. So I don't like that either. That is not conducive to bullishness. In terms of GBP USD, we ran out this daily week high, had SMT basically at the very lower end of these key levels, and now we have displaced, or we've closed below this daily balance price range. None of this is screaming bullish to me at all. So when we look at it on the lower time frame, we can see that this H4 bearish fair value gap has held us down over here. After we ran out this previous day high and had SMT, we've closed below this bullish gap and inverted it. So now it's a bearish fair value gap. And we've seen that act as resistance here today. We have obviously the previous week low down here. This level right here is the previous week low, as you can see. And then we obviously have this H4 lows right here, which can act as a target now if this is the left side of the curve. But to me, this looks more like it wants to run out a week high and then displace lower than it does look like it wants to go bullish, right? So if I just put that in the H4, it looks more obvious that this would be the next target, right? Like we've got bearish price action here. So on the H1, what we could potentially see is a manipulation into this H4 bearish fair value gap and this daily inverse gap, potentially of this H1 week high right here. So we'll whack them into H1. And then you can see that that looks like a more likely scenario to me than being bullish from this level. But yeah, once again, I mean, I'll look at price action post CPI tomorrow. Maybe we get a manipulation then. But I'm not liking price action so far this week. And it's probably not a high probability week for me to be looking to continue trading. So I'm just going to take a back seat unless something absolutely obvious is screaming at me. So that's GU. Euro GBP, in a nutshell, I think the obvious target is these relatively equal highs here, right, on the daily. Because, so this high and this high, because we're above this bearish weekly gap and we're holding it right here. So this blue box is the bearish fair value gap on a weekly. We're above that. We're holding it. And then we also have this H4 inverse gap right here that we've closed above, and now we're holding it. So we're above bearish PD arrays. We've inverted them and we've got a strong drawn liquidity above. So I think the most likely scenario is potentially invert this H4 gap, weak low, something like that. I think that's the most likely scenario, but it's not necessarily high probability, right? But because we've got those bearish PD arrays below us, and we've got these relatively equal highs above us, that seems like the most obvious move. If there was a gun to my head, I would say that was what would happen. UCAD, we'll keep this one short as well. So in terms of yesterday, I told you that, I think I mentioned that I was in a trade for UCAD, but then I made a post saying I had moved my stop loss to break even, and I'm basically taking a back seat for the rest of the week. And after a further analysis, right, I didn't like my probabilities. I didn't like my chances, right? We've hit the drawn liquidity. This drawn liquidity on the higher time frame, we're on the daily chart right here. This drawn liquidity is actually the 12-month low, right? So that's the yearly week low that we have hit, right? So, sorry, not week low. This is the yearly previous candle low. So I could show you what that looks like just to make it clear. You can see that we have run out the previous yearly candles low. That's just something important to note. So that means that obviously the higher time frame is more important. This 3-month low, we could obviously still hit, right? But we've already taken out the previous yearly low. So it doesn't necessarily have to expand there. Two, basically, we were at that low, right? I didn't really like how we have not run into this bearish gap that I was anticipating, which is the weekly balanced price range. Had we manipulated into that and then displaced lower, I'll be much more confident, but we didn't do that, so I don't like that. Then obviously we have this on the daily time frame. I'm going to get rid of that line. We closed below this inverse gap and this bearish fair value gap after having run out the daily week high. And we have this daily week low as a drawn liquidity. But once again, we're at that 12-month low right here. I didn't like what DXY was doing. I'm not sure in terms of EU or GU, and using intermarket analysis, it doesn't aid my bias at all. For UCAD, I don't know if pound was stronger or weaker, which means that doesn't help in terms of having confidence that UCAD is going to be weaker. Because obviously, if the dollar is stronger than the pound, if the dollar is stronger than the CAD, then this is going to push higher. Anyway, what I did was I closed that position out, and I'll show you what it was. It was a short from this H4 week high. and it looked like that, right? But I closed it out at break even. Well, I moved my stop loss to break even and it stopped me out. And I don't know what it was in particular, call it market intuition, but price action was just not looking how I wanted to look. And I just didn't have confidence in it. So I closed the trade at break even. I thought I'd move it to break even. If it runs, it runs. Likelihood is going to stop. It's going to hit break even and take me out. But yeah, say we hadn't hit this 12-month low and we had manipulated this high, right? That would be a whole different story. I'd be way more confident that we were displacing into this low. But because we've already hit the 12-month liquidity pool and we failed to actually manipulate up here, it's just not, it's not high probability. So I closed that trade out. And then UJ, finally, right? Obvious draw on liquidity is this low down here on the H4. It's probably a daily, weekly, week low right here. We've got this bearish H4 fair value gap holding down price. We run out this H4 week high into that level. I mean, I don't like how we're just teetering around here rather than just running this low. We're literally like consolidating. I don't like that, especially when we're so close to drawing liquidity. But it seems obvious that this is the target for UJ. Gone to my head, that would be the direction. And I would anticipate probably that week high get around, right? Something like that. H1 week high ran into this bearish H1 fair value gap, balance price range, and then displace lower. But I'm not placing that trade. It's not high probability enough for me to trust. And I'd rather come back fresh next week and take more optimal trades. So yeah, with that being said, we'll leave it at that for today. I always say it's going to be a short one. It ends up being like 20 minutes, but it is what it is. I get a bit carried away and I don't want to skip any details where you guys might be left wondering, well, why has he done that? Or what has he missed? So yeah, obviously, if you appreciate these videos, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one, which will either be tomorrow or Saturday. I don't need to really do a video tomorrow night because no one's trading on Saturday. But I'll drop my weekly review next. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the weekly review and have a good trading day tomorrow. Peace.